Whether you're starting off with a brand new horse, bringing one back from some time off, or one of us moving along the messy middle, this video is for you. While the first clinic recap video had to do with finding a lost mind, this one is about the art of guiding the mind you have. Stick around, because wherever you are on your own journey with your own horse, one of these stories is going to meet you there. In the last video, I started the clinic recap series by talking about 4 horses who had somehow lost their mind along the way and what we did to help those horses bring their minds back and find peace. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. The second video is going to round out the horses from the clinic, but instead of talking about lost minds, this video is about the journey. We have a story of a sweet beginning, we have a horse coming back from retirement, we've got a therapy horse who's beginning to find his way, and then we'll round out with Honor the Mustang and the most complex story of this particular clinic and hoping to find his way forward together with us. In these stories, we focus on guiding and how do we move on down the journey together. Let's start with a sweet new beginning. Abigail came to this clinic to meet and take home her brand new horse, Drum. Drum's an off-the-track standard bred who was in possession of a friend of ours, and it seemed like he'd be a great fit and just what this family was looking for. His family had done a great job getting him started. He wasn't troubled. He was pretty present with you and ready to work together and have connection. So Abigail, coming from her past horse, who she lost last year, was a much more hot-blooded Arab. Abigail's job had been in the past to learn to bring down her energy and keep that horse from getting too hot and ready to run off and get the mind to stay present with them where they were. Now with Drum, his mind is present, and her new job is going to be getting a forward thought. And so having Drum start to think about moving onward and forward down the trail with her, she had to work a little bit to get him into a trot this weekend. And I think that work is going to come through just fine, and probably her mom is going to like that kind of a job better than it was to keep that hot-blooded Arab from running off with her. One thing's for sure, it was clear from the beginning that Abigail fell in love with Drum and that he is going to have a great life ahead of him with this family. Our next story is the other young rider we had in this clinic, Skylar. And Skylar was working with Prophecy, who's a Polish Arab who had been retired about 8 years ago due to some pain issues that they couldn't seem to work through, and he was not going well under saddle. There was enough of a diagnosis to decide it was better to give him a break. So he's been a pasture buddy for the last 8 years, but they've kept wondering, is it possible that there might be some changes that could have occurred in his time off? There could be some more options medically that weren't available then. It just made sense to bring him out and see. He's such a great horse. Is there a potential for any light work for him to be had? And Skylar really wanted to dig into that question. And so she convinced her mom to bring him out to the clinic and to just see what was there. Day one, Skylar did beautiful with groundwork with him in a round pen, and he is such a character. We had a lot of fun watching them work together. Day two, it was decided that let's try to put the saddle on him and just see each step of the way how it goes. I remember back when Prophecy was originally retired, and I saw those instances of him trying to be under saddle, and so I knew what it meant for Skylar to go ahead and see what was in there and give it a try. And I really was proud of her and the work that she did and the courage that she had to actually see what was in there. When they got him saddled up, he seemed to be really okay with the process. They went slow, one step at a time, paying attention to, did he seem to be shutting down? Was he relaxed? Was he okay? And he really went through each step of the way saying that this was going to be okay for him. The time came for Skylar to go ahead and try to just even put a foot in the stirrup, just experiment with putting some weight over the saddle, even if she didn't jump all the way up there, to just hang over him, see what kind of reaction could come. And I'll tell you, I was a little nervous just knowing what that's like to be willing to try to get on a horse who especially hadn't had a great experience before, and then giving them another try. And Skylar, she just got the courage up, thought it was time, and she went ahead and got on him, and it was really beautiful. Now, we don't know what the long-term prognosis will be like with Prophecy, but just her riding him a little bit around in that round pen went really well. He was quiet, he was willing, he was present, and Skylar just met him there and did just a short ride around the round pen. Now, we don't know what that long-term journey is going to look like for him, but I can tell you that it was beautiful to see this potential next chapter open up, at least in the short term, when the question was asked, will you meet me here and can we go together? And the answer was, for that day, yes. The story of the horse in the middle of the journey is about Maui, and he's kind of got a cameo appearance at this clinic because he's one of the Dare to Dream horses. Now, you heard about Cowboy in the first video and his journey and where he's at. Maui has been around just a little while longer, and we decided to give him a few minutes of work on day one. But really, that was the only time I worked with him. It was about 25 minutes or so just to check in with him. So he didn't have a prominent part in this clinic. But I really wanted to share where he is on his journey because he represents a horse that's kind of on his way and doing well, but still has some road to go. Maui is a ridiculously cute Welsh quarter horse cross. And he's kind of a little guy, but he has a big personality. When he showed up at Dare to Dream, he didn't settle in particularly well. He tended to be a little grumpy, sometimes nippy. He really wasn't willing in the riding, and she contacted me actually to get some advice on what might help him move forward. And that was one of our early connections, was with Maui and Hope Horsemanship. And we found a few things that seemed to be bothering him that we were able to start to work through, bringing him more present and more clarity in the work. And it seemed to help a little bit. But meanwhile, while all that was going on, he also developed a pretty serious injury, and that injury took about a year of recovery work, which meant some stall rest, some limited turnout, a lot of doctoring by Marcia, and a lot of care. And obviously about a year of not really being much in work, but just needing to be nursed kind of through that injury. Marcia had told me that since he's been back to work this year, he seems to have a better attitude. He seems to be softer and more willing, and has had a few really beautiful sessions, especially with groundwork or liberty work, and seems to be starting to settle in and work better for the center than she had hoped with his rough beginning. One of the issues we think he might have had in the riding was worrying about potential confusion in the reins. And when you have a handful of different people coming through to do riding work in a center like that, there can be sometimes confusion in the reins. And that seemed to be something that really troubled him. So what I wanted to play around with was what we call knot work. And so you get right in there on the halter knot, which is pretty claustrophobic, and some horses really can struggle with that. But what you want to see is the horse soften into guidance from that knot, and have them allow you to be really in there close quarter with them. And one of the things that helps is the reins can also create kind of a claustrophobic feel for a horse. And so if they can soften into that knot work and follow a guidance from the feel on that knot, then it often will help translate into being able to handle the kind of claustrophobic feel that will come from the reins. And Marcia uses a side pull with this little guy now. He used to be in a bit, but he seems to do a little better with a side pull. And so it's not a bit that he needs to respond to, but that feeling of guidance from the halter is a little bit similar to what he would get on a side pull. I was thrilled at how well that work went. He certainly had a few questions for me as we went through it, but he wasn't disturbed or upset about it. He didn't get nippy or ear pinny. He was really willing to try to stay present and to try to figure out what I was doing and then to go with me. And we got some really soft moments in there. And I am so proud of this little horse because I know Marcia really loves him and was hoping that he would settle in. And I don't know if it's the combination of some of the work that we did, some of the work that Marcia had followed through with, and then obviously some time off from being handled by a lot of people and letting him just kind of settle in and then get a restart seems to have done him really well. And I am pleased to see that he seems to be happier, a little bit more relaxed. Seems to me that Maui is on that journey and he is beginning to find his way. Well, that brings us to Honor's story. Now, he's the last horse I'm going to talk about because his journey is still yet a bit unclear. We had Tom take a look at him because I haven't really been able to bridge the gap of getting Honor to trust us to put the halter on. Now, we've gotten kind of close with the halter, and actually I've wondered a few times if I get close enough and he lets me possibly get in there and get that halter tied. When he realized that he's caught, what's going to happen? And honestly, that was a big concern for me because I know that he does seem to have a pretty big fear about being caught. Now, he's let us come up and rub on him, especially on the front part of his body. He's gotten a lot better at accepting us in his space. There's a lot of good movement that's happened since he's come here with us, but I can tell that there's still a skittishness and a fear in there, and we're just not seeming to get past that. So my hope was that Tom and his expertise could give us some input of what he sees and possibly help us to bridge that gap. After taking a look at him, Tom thought roping seemed like the best answer and that he can begin to follow and trust that feel and connection that comes from the rope being attached. Well, we did get a rope on him. Tom's great. He's very experienced with this. He's worked with some Mustangs before that just had to be roped because no other way was working. And our hope that he would just kind of come through to that feel did not work out that way. And that was somewhat disappointing, but also just revealing, because the end of the day, I always say the truth will set us free, and knowing what's in there just shows us how we need to walk the road ahead. And he stayed in fear, a lot of panic. A few little moments that Honor came to a soft spot, just very briefly, gave Tom a chance, responded to just a little feel on the rope, but it didn't take much for him to go back into a panic and to start running. At the end, we saw that this really wasn't going to come through how we'd hoped, and so we were able to reach in and just pull that rope loose so that he could get free of it. Worked with him just a little to bring him back to being present and okay before we put him away for the day. But that did not pull us through to the other side how I had hoped it might. And so now we're looking at a longer road with this guy, but we love and adore him. He is part of the Hope Horsemanship family. And wouldn't it be the case that the horse that we bring home would have a little more of a complicated journey than we had originally anticipated? And we're in it for the long haul, as always. Tom worked him with a flag in the round pen in a similar way that I have been working to draw his mind and build connection at Liberty. And that's the road for now. I don't see a lot of value in trying to get a rope or a halter or anything on him to have him feel trapped until that connection between us becomes stronger. And I had a gut feeling that that was going to be the case. Before Tom came, I had begun that work more in earnest, and I see now that that is really the way forward with him. And a week later, working with him every day in the round pen, I am seeing very slight changes where he's moving to more softness, he's getting to be more confident, and he's beginning to draw in. And the only way that we're going to get through it is to just walk that out on a regular basis until he finally starts to see that his experience with us is that we're trustworthy and he's not going to get hurt, he's not going to get in trouble. And if he trusts us to be able to have that connection, have that control over him with a tool, with the rope, that we are trustworthy and that he's going to be okay, and that fear he can let go of. So stay tuned for Honor's journey, because that's the long road of this story. And the great part about his is that we're constantly updating how he's doing. And if you're interested in seeing how this little Mustang with a deep-seated fear goes, you'll be able to keep an eye on it as you watch our channel. A variety of horses, 2 days of great horsemanship, but all of the questions came down to, where is the mind? Is the horse present? Are we present? Can we come together, and when the horse's mind is present, can we then direct it in the places that we want to go? Thank you for being here. Hopefully we'll see you around the round pen for one of our clinics, and regardless of that, we'll see you right here on our channel next time.